We've done it. We've reached the last Deva video. I mean, I guess 4 isn't too many, and I guess I technically could have done them all in one video, but then they'd ended up being really long if I'd done that. So, we've reached the last one with the dog, the dragon, and the rabbit. Represented back here by a dragon, a bunny, well, a squirrel bunny, and a dog. So, this video will be about Caturamon, who is the dog Deva, Majiramon, who is the dragon Deva, and Antylamon, who is the rabbit Deva. These are the last 3 Devas that the trainers that the Digimon Tamers encounter during their time frame, dealing with the Devas in general, but during the time frame in the digital world as well. Caturamon has a bit of a major impact on the story, given actions he takes, and of course Antylamon ends up being the partner of Susie, you know, pretty much within the episode that we're introduced to her. So, moving in. So Caturamon, I trust me, I do find it funny that the dog Deva has cat in its name. Trust me, that irony is not lost on me, but I know that that's not quite how it kind of translates exactly, because it's based off of a certain thing, and you know, that's just how it kind of goes. So that's what we have there. So Caturamon, I always used to think it was pronounced Caturamon, because that's kind of what it looked like, or sounded like in the, you know, English dub of Tamers. So Caturamon, Caturamon, I might go back and forth, but I'm referring to the same Digimon. So he kind of appears as just after Antmon has been defeated by Indramon. So Antmon is very much down in the dumps. He's been rather, you know, beaten up by Antylamon and everything, by the horse Deva. And, you know, he starts hearing this voice talking to him, kind of taunting him, but also just kind of like seeding his resentment at being weak. You know, seeding the fact that, you know, Antmon can't digivolve, hasn't been able to digivolve, you know, as a lot of the other Digimon around him have at least been able to digivolve. Even some of the different bio-emerged Digimon have been able to digivolve at times. But yet Antmon has not been able to. And Caturamon just kind of like taunts him about this. And then when, at the same time, I believe when the Tamers are making their way into the digital world, Caturamon opens up a portal near where Antmon is, and Antmon goes through, and he goes into the digital world, and then he ends up meeting Caturamon. And Caturamon then basically ends up promising to give Antmon power in return, will give Antmon power as long as he uses that power in return to capture Antylamon and destroy the Tamers. Mostly just destroy the Tamers. You know, on behalf of Caturamon. And we've kind of seen this before, in the fact that it makes sense that the sovereigns would be able to grant power to Digimon, and that the Devas would be able to do the same thing on behalf of the sovereigns. So we kind of saw the sovereigns do something similar to this when it came to giving the kid, you know, the 4 main Tamers, you know, Rika, Takato, Henry, and Rio, giving them the power to be able to bio-merge with their Digimon in the real world. So we know that they sent Dobermon to be able to give them that power, but, you know, this is kind of like a precursor to that of like, well, they're able to give Caturamon power to give power to Antmon to be able to allow him to digivolve into the Antylamon. So Antmon basically makes this deal with the devil, and deal with the devil dog, and basically what ends up happening is first Caturamon kind of shows him this vision. So Caturamon can apparently create illusions. I don't know if that's a connection to like the dog Deva, like the dog zodiac thing itself, or if it's a connection to like the god, the heavenly general that it's based on. I don't know. As I said, some of the stuff is based off of that. Some of the stuff is like, oh, well, in the story, he needs to be able to do this. So that's what he can do in the story. But he makes this illusion and shows Itmon, IE, and Mako, and Itmon is just like, he's like really happy to see them, and then he realizes that they can't see him and that it's an illusion. And that just like adds fuel to the fire of his rage and everything like that. And Caturamon taunts him enough, and he eventually ends up, getting Beelzemon, getting Itmon to make the deal. And he's like, fine, I'll do it. I will destroy the Tamers. Fine. And and I pointed this out in Itmon's video as well, is that he is actually reluctant to make this deal in the first place because he actually kind of like cares about the Tamers at this point in time, because him and Renamon have developed a bond, and him and Gilmon have developed a bond. But it's his own ego and his own self-deprecation and self-hatred getting in the way in this regard, and Caturamon is preying upon that. And he gives him the power that allows Itmon to be able to digivolve all the way up to Beelzemon. And Beelzemon goes off and just starts causing chaos by like destroying all these other high-level Digimon and like, gathering up their data inside of himself, absorbing it and everything. And during this time frame, Caturamon is just kind of like keeping an eye on him and everything. And eventually what ends up happening is, Caturamon just kind of tracks him down and is just like, okay, you've had your fun. The Tamers are that way. Go and destroy them now. And he like sends him off, points Beelzemon in the right direction. During this point in time, he captures Calamon. Caturamon is able to capture Calamon because Beelzemon is attacking them, and they're able to get to Calamon and capture him, and they take him off to the Sovereign and everything. And Caturamon just kind of acts like this, well, like most of the Devas, he acts a little bit like a lackey. Although I will admit, Caturamon seems to be a slight bit less arrogant than the rest of them, than, 10 of the other 11. Why he seems a bit less arrogant, I don't know. I mean, like, he's still very manipulative of Itmon in this situation. He's still, Caturamon still sends him to deal with Antylamon when Antylamon, betrays them and, becomes Susie's partner and everything. So it's like he's still very much loyal to the other Sovereign. And, to Caturamon specifically, but to the Sovereign. But he just seems slightly less arrogant. He's still very manipulative, as I said, but seems a bit less arrogant. I don't think we ever get any, like, big speeches from him about how horrible the humans are. He's just following orders again from Caturamon. And what ends up happening is kind of the last bit that we see from him is, he's sent to go deal with Antylamon, go deal with Lopmon. And he shows up during the battle between Gallantmon and Beelzemon. And he attempts to try to attack Lopmon and Susie. Caturamon kind of intervenes and ends up taking the blow because Caturamon kind of turns himself into a giant hammer. I don't know why. He turns himself into a hammer, and the attack is aimed for Susie and Lopmon. Caturamon knocks him out of the way and takes the attack himself, and then Gallantmon ends up just attacking, Caturamon and destroys him. Beelzemon then pops up and just absorbs his data instead. And he starts gloating and taunting, back at, Caturamon, because it's just like, oh, you kept taunting me, now I'm gonna, taunt you as well as, as you did to me, before. So that's basically the end of what we see of Caturamon. His data just gets absorbed by Beelzemon. The one attack that it has listed to him is Howl of the Heavens, which sounds pretty good in my opinion. It just releases the supersonic howl that can shatter barriers. So I think they use it to destroy like Talmon's barrier when they're trying to protect Calamon, and that's how he's able to capture Calamon. I do like Caturamon's design. He's a dog, but he's an armored dog. And I think he looks I don't know what kind of dog it looks like he's based off of, but I mean, clearly he's also slightly based off of like foo dogs as well, but not quite as much as like one would expect. So Next up, we have the Dragon Deva, which is, I think, actually one of the Devas we spend like the least amount of time with. So, well, Cubihiramon, the Rat Deva, might be the one that we actually spend the least amount of time with because he gets destroyed by Leomon pretty quickly after arriving in the real world. But Majiramon isn't around a whole lot, very long either. So Majiramon is the Dragon Deva. And the first time that we kind of see him is when Makuramon enlists him to help find Calamon, because this is after Calamon got stuck in the barrier or stuck in one of the layers, and Makuramon needs to go and get help to get him down, and Calamon's not there when he gets back, so him and Majiramon, he's right around Majiramon's head as they're flying around trying to find where Calamon went. And at one point in time, during that time frame, they, kind of see where, like, this light of Digivolution is coming from. And they're like, that's where he has to be. And they make their way there. And they end up actually having to fight against Cyberdemon and Rio because I think they end up just trying to attack the Tamers anyway. I don't believe Calamon is with the Tamers at this point in time. But he starts trying to attack the Tamers. So it's just like, oh, if I eliminate this threat now, then they're one less thing to worry about later. And Majiramon just ends up kind of getting his butt kicked by Rio and Cyberdemon fairly quickly. I mean, Rio has to use like his Goliath card to make, Cyberdemon much bigger, and Cyberdemon is the, one that just basically like manhandles Majiramon. I'm like, the cyber dragon thingy was able to beat the giant actual Chinese looking dragon, so okay. And I'm pretty sure that, like, the fact that he's a green Chinese-looking dragon, Japanese-looking dragon, is probably, like, a slight reference to, like, Shenron from Dragon Ball, but I don't know enough about Dragon Ball to be able to make that comparison, make that, full comparison there. I'm like, I know there's a dragon. I know that he can grant wishes if you have the Dragon Balls. But beyond that, I have no idea what to do with him. I have no idea how else Shenron works. I know he looks cool, but back to this. So yeah, Majiramon gets destroyed, and Cyberdemon just absorbs his data, and that's it. He's not around for very long, in all honesty. And like, yeah, that's it. In regards to his attacks, he has flaming arrowheads, which are just a whole bunch of, like, arrows that get shot out. There's not really a whole lot of information about them. I think they're just, a swirl of arrows and lights or whatever that come out of the sky and attack the opponent. I mean, I'm quite sure that he's rather strong and intimidating, but he just, like, he's handled pretty dang quickly by Rio and Cyberdemon. But again, it's meant to be this representation of, like, how strong Rio and Cyberdemon are. And to indicate that, oh yeah, they were able to take down this very powerful Digimon on their own. But also to show off how skilled of a tamer Rio is. Now we move into the last Deva, the bunny, Antylamon. So I went over Antylamon in a lot more detail in the Suzy video, where I talked about Suzy and Antylamon / Lopmon there. So, bit information here. Antylamon is obviously the rabbit Deva. She is the final Deva that the Tamers end up interacting with. And she is, I mean, as I went over in the Suzy one, Suzy comes across her while Antylamon is, like, guarding the gates to the Sovereigns. And Antylamon doesn't seem to have this, like, initial, like, hatred the way that the other Devas do when they see any of the human kids or just humans in general. Antylamon doesn't seem to have that type of a hatred instantly. Now, it could be that it's because part of her just kind of recognizes that Suzy is her, her destined partner, or it could just be that Antylamon is just much less arrogant than the rest of them. Either one, whatever. And what ends up happening is, Suzy and Antylamon end up playing, and I went over this a lot more in that video where it's just like, oh, Susie kind of just like, Antylamon puts like Susie on her head because Susie is tiny compared to Antylamon. And she puts Susie on her head, and then she like runs around really quick all over the place. And Susie is just like hanging on really tight to Antylamon's ears, and she's like, oh my god, it's like I'm flying, and just like having fun running around that way. And you know, Antylamon does these different jumps, and you know, it's like you can kind of see Antylamon kind of just like for a few moments, just like, okay, I'm gonna have fun with this little human kid. She hasn't done anything to me, but I'm just gonna have a little bit of fun with her, run around with her, and do it that way. And what ends up happening is, you know, eventually Antylamon is like, okay, she's like thinking to herself, okay, I need to get Susie out of here, because if any of the other Devas show up, or if the Sovereign finds out, then they're going to get in trouble. Susie's going to get hurt, and, you know, the kid's sweet, and I don't want her to get hurt. So she, like, pretends to be kind of tired, so Susie goes off to try to find her water. And Antylamon just kind of is intending to, like, just kind of, like, disappear while Susie's gone and go back to her gate. And which is like, okay, you could have, I don't know, found someone else to watch the child or something. I don't know. And during this time frame, Majiramon shows up, sees Susie, tries to capture Susie, and Antylamon ends up going into protective mode and ends up fighting against Majiramon in order to protect Susie, which results in Antylamon getting hurt in the process, but she saves Susie, and Majiramon just kind of runs off because he later gets destroyed by Beelzemon, as I said. So Beelzemon actually gets 2 Deva kills. I was trying to remember how many of the other Deva kills. Takato got a couple, Rapidmon, or Yelmon got a couple, Terriermon got a couple, Renamon got, I think, a couple. Some of them they, you know, took out together. It just depends on stuff, but, you know, they all got a couple of Deva kills under their belt. Beelzemon got 2 for Majiramon and Caturamon. And Rio got 1 with the dragon. And Susie gets points for taming a Deva. And what ends up happening is, you know, during this time frame is when Henry and Takato and Terriermon show up. And after, you know, Caturamon kind of witnessed some of this, and he goes and he tells Caturamon what's going on, or Majiramon told Caturamon, one of the two, about what happened with Susie and Antylamon, and the fact that, you know, Antylamon kind of betrayed them in that regard. You know, you chose a human over us, and now you're going to be punished for it. And what ends up happening is, you know, Antylamon basically gets, like, her power revoked. It's like pulled out of her, and it's rather a violent looking sequence, and it's probably kind of painful because, like, I mean, you know, I've been over the fact that, like, when it comes to, like, digivolving in this world, it seems to be a lot more of a task in regards to being able to control when you digivolve, and it takes practice to get to the point where you can do it. And when it comes to this moment with Antylamon, where it's just like Caturamon pulling away all of, like, the data and everything that makes up a good chunk of what Antylamon is, you know, and Lopmon's the thing that's left, there's not really a whole lot there. I mean, this is either an ultimate or a mega, ultimate levels, as I believe the Devas are, being turned into a rookie form. And it's just like, that's a big jump when it's not something that's done willingly. And yes, you know, Digimon tend to digivolve if they've been defeated, as we've seen, but this is a bit of a different story. This is literally that data being pulled out of you, which seems a lot more painful. And, you know, Antylamon gets turned into Lopmon, and Susie gets, you know, a Digivice. I think she got the Digivice before Antylamon got turned into Lopmon, and then that was just, like, the final straw, and it's like, okay, no, your Deva pass is revoked, and, like, pulls, you know, Caturamon does that. And Lopmon, I mean, for the most part, Lopmon just, you know, she attempts to try to help the Tamers in regards to trying to, like, reason with Caturamon and everything, but Caturamon does not care. Caturamon is more than willing to attack her just as much as he's willing to attack the Tamers, because he views her as a traitor. And that's the thing, is that, like, by the end of the series, Antylamon / Lotmon are the only Deva left. There's not any, all the other Devas have been destroyed. Either through one of the Tamers, or through Beelzemon, or, you know, whatever reason. They've all been destroyed. And then, you know, Antylamon's, you know, pass as a Deva is, like, revoked. And, you know, by Caturamon, because he sees her as a traitor. Even though Lotmon still has this, you know, reverence for Caturamon and the other sovereign, because they are the Digimon sovereign, and that's what she was designed to do, is to protect and serve them. And, you know, so there's that. And, you know, but it's not like Antylamon ever, you know, it's not like, you know, Lotmon ever gets that, you know, that setup returned to her. I mean, we know that later on, Lotmon travels with them into the real world, and then during that time frame, she is able to digivolve again, you know, to return to being Antylamon again, and, you know, she's, you know, tries to help against the D-Reaper as much as she can, along with Susie and everything. And then, you know, at the end of the series, she goes back to the digital world along with the rest of the Digimon. And then at some point in time between the end of that and the you know, the Digimon Runaway Locomon movie, you know, her and the rest of the Digimon return to the real world, and she's back with Susie again. So, you know, that basically sums up what happens with Antylamon / Lotmon. It's an awesome bunny, I do have to admit. I mean, in regards to just all of the Devas in general, my favorite one is Antylamon, for various reasons. But I would have to say that my favorite out of all of them when it comes to design, specifically on design, and I would have to say my favorite is actually, let me think. I really like Indramon's design. You know, he's a horse, and I love horses. I do like Majiramon, the sheep / ram one. I do like that one a lot. But I do have to think my favorite one out of all of them, and it just comes strictly to design, is Majiramon, is the Tiger Deva. It's like, he's a freaking tiger with wings. What better design do you need for a Digimon? For a freaking Tiger Deva. He's a tiger with wings, and his tail turns into, like, nunchucks or something. You know, I would have to say he is my favorite in regards to design. My favorite out of all of them total is Antylamon, for obvious reasons. But that's it. We've reached the end of the Devas. As I said, I still have to do the Grani video and the D-Reaper videos. I don't remember if there's any other ones I need to do. I need to double check some of my other notes to see if there were other ones I wanted to do. At some point in time, I do plan on doing, like, reviews of the different Digimon movies of, you know, Digimon R War Games for the, you know, American version of the Digimon movie, and then the subsequent Revenge of Diablo-Amon, and then Digimon Battle of Adventures for Digimon Tamers, along with Digimon, you know, Runaway Locomon for Tamers. And then I think there's at least one Digimon movie for Digimon Frontier. It's like the Island of Lost Digimon or something like that. And I intend on doing those at some point in time, but I just haven't made that decision yet on when exactly, because some of them, it's been a while since I've watched them, because they're kind of hard to find. So that's what we have there. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.